Ladies and gentlemen, federal employees, regardless of your career plans and how long you want to stay with the government, it is essential to understand when and how you can retire and what benefits you can take with you. Because here's the deal, I know many of you want to work the rest of your career with the federal government, and many of you maybe not. And it's so critical to know the few ways that you could potentially retire early and keep some of your core benefits. If you don't understand the options, you're not going to get the most out of them. So today, what we're going to talk about is when can you retire early? What are the things you have to hit when it comes to eligibility requirements? What does a normal retirement even look like? What does an early retirement mean? We're going to dive into all those things so you can get the most out of your federal retirement. Now, if you're new here, welcome. So good to have you. My name is Dallin Hoswell, financial planner who serves federal employees just like you every day. I absolutely love it. So let's dive in. Before we can talk about some of these types of early retirement, which we'll get to, we've got to first set the baseline of what does a normal retirement even mean? Okay, because if we're saying you want to retire earlier than what, right? Well, earlier than quote unquote a normal retirement. So let's talk through what a normal retirement is. To hit a normal retirement under the traditional FERS rules, you've got to hit one of the next three criteria. Again, just hit one of them, okay? Number one, you got to hit your MRA, which for most people is right around age 57, and have at least 30 years of service. Again, if you hit about age 57, have 30 years of federal service, you're eligible for a normal retirement. If you're age 60 and have at least 20 years of service, again, boom, you're eligible for a full-blown normal retirement. If you hit age 62, all you need is 5 years of service and you are eligible for a normal retirement. So if you've hit any one of these three, you are good to go. You're eligible for a normal retirement. You don't have to worry about anything else. None of these would apply to you if you already are eligible for a full-blown retirement. Now, if you are special provisions, so firefighter, law enforcement, air traffic control, you know the rules are a little different for you. At age 50, if you have 20 years, you can retire, or 25 years at any age. Again, age 50, you need 20 years of special provision time, or 25 years at any age, okay? Again, these are, normal retirement rules, the normal rules. So if you want to leave before you hit one of these criteria, you're gonna be going for a type of early retirement, which we're about to talk about right now. So let's talk about the first one, and this is the one that everyone dreams of at least a little bit, okay? The first one is VERA. Long story short, it's an acronym that stands for Voluntary Early Retirement Authority. That's what it stands for. And basically, this is what it is. If your agency is trying to get people off the payroll, if they're trying to cut down, they would want to incentivize people to retire early. So they go to OPM and say, hey, we want to get people off the books. Will you let us do a VERA, allow people to retire early? And if everything gets approved, and if they want people in positions like yours to potentially retire early, it may be offered to you. But again, a VERA is not offered to everyone, and the more valuable your position, probably the less likely you are going to get this offered to you. But let's talk about it anyway. So to be eligible for a VERA, first, again, it's got to be offered to you, which it's not offered to everybody. And you've got to hit one of the next two criteria. You've got to be age 50, with 20 years or 25 years at any age. So actually the same criteria for special provisions, but this applies to VERA, and this applies to anyone, traditional FERS or special provisions, to all federal employees. If it's offered to you, you retire at age 50 with 20 years or 25 years at any age, which is a great thing. You can get a pension right away with no reductions. You can keep your health insurance, all the core benefits you're able to keep with this one, and that's the upside of this. You can retire early, keep all the main benefits, but the downside is you don't have control of whether you're offered it or not. So that's the first type of early retirement. Let's move on to the next one. Long story short, the next one is called MRA plus 10 retirement, and as the name suggests, to qualify for this, you have to hit your MRA, which again is around age 57. If you don't know exactly what your MRA is, if you just Google MRA chart, you'll find it'll pop right up for you. It's based on your birth date. Most people, it's going to be age 57. It may be a little earlier for you, but right around 57 is what it's going to be. So if you have less than 30 years at your MRA, Of course, you can't retire with a normal retirement, as you see here. That's one of the requirements. You got to hit your MRA with at least 30. But if you have at least 10 years at your MRA, you can retire. Okay, you can retire, but here's the catch. This type of retirement, the upside is you can go before the normal 30 years at your MRA. Okay, you can. However, for every year you retire before 62, your pension's going to be reduced by 5% for every year you retire before 62. So let's do an example. Let's say you are your MRA 57. You've got 15 years of service. So are you eligible for a full normal retirement? No, you're not. Because at your MRA, you need at least 30. Okay. Now, if you kept working until 62 plus, then yeah, you would be eligible for a normal retirement because you'd have more than 5 and you'd be 62 plus, but you're not there yet. You're, again, 57 with 15 years of service. Okay. So if you retired right then, you can, if you took an MRA plus 10 retirement, because again, you're eligible for that, at 57 with 15 years of service, this is the type of retirement you'd be eligible for. If you did that, your pension would be reduced 5% per year before age 62 that you retire. So retiring at 57 means 5 years before 62. That's 5 times 5. That's 25% of your pension would be cut for the rest of your life. It doesn't come back later. It's a permanent reduction to your pension for the rest of your life. Okay? So be careful before taking this. Make sure it makes sense for you. Now, you normally can keep your health insurance like normal, so that's great. But again, your pension will be cut 5% for every year you retire before 62. Now, there's one exception to this reduction, okay? So as you see here, postponed retirement, I put it as a sub-bullet point of the MRA plus 10. It's kind of sub-component of MRA plus 10. Long story short, this is how it works. If you qualify for MRA plus 10 retirement, but you want to avoid those reductions I was talking about, the 5% per year reduction before 62, if you want to avoid those, you can postpone your pension. This is what it looks like. If you have more than 20 years, you postpone your pension till 60. If you have less than 20 years, you postpone your pension till 62. So let's say, again, you retire at 57, let's say. At 57, you retire, okay? If you have 15 years of service, you'd have to go to 62, okay? 62. So for these 5 years, you're not getting a pension. You postpone your pension, as this name suggests. You postpone it for 5 years. Okay, so during this gap, you don't have any pension, no pension, and you can't be on your FEHB, your health insurance, your life insurance, any of the federal insurance outside of long-term care. You can't be on it during this gap. Okay, you cannot be on it. And no pension. However, once your pension starts at 62, you then will have your pension for the rest of your life with no reductions, okay? So again, you don't take your pension right away, you postpone it, and you get out of those reductions that I was talking about, okay? But again, during the gap, you don't have a pension or insurance, which is a big deal. So the most common situation that I see that people use a postponed retirement is when they want to go take another job. They want to retire from the Fed and go take another job where they have a salary and health insurance, normally from a different employer, during this gap. Now, you could solve those problems another way, but that's the most common solution I see. Okay, let's do a quick recap before we get to the last type of early retirement. If you qualify, okay, let me back up at the beginning. If you qualify for a normal retirement, which again, MRA and 30, 60 and 20, 62 and 5 for normal traditional FERS. If you're special provision, it is 50 and 20, 25, or 25 years at any age. If you qualify for a normal type of retirement, you're done. You don't have to worry about anything else. You're good. You qualify for a pension right away with no reductions. If you don't qualify for one of those, you then got to look at one of these. Okay, one of these types of early retirement. Again, VERA, the upside is you can retire right away, you get a full pension with no reductions, and you keep your health insurance. However, it's not offered to everybody. MRA plus 10 is nice. It allows you to retire early, but there's reductions to your pension if you retire for every year you turn 62, but you can postpone it, right? You can postpone your pension, but during the gap, you're not getting a pension or your health insurance, okay? Now, if you want to know more about VERA, MRA plus 10, postponed, deferred, all of these things, I've done full videos on each one of those, and I go more in depth. So if you want more details on any one of these things, go check out my other videos on those, okay? Last but not least, deferred. Now, when most people see the word deferred and postponed, in the modern English language, these words are identical. They basically mean the same thing. It's pushing something off and getting something later. However, in the context of federal retirement, these two things are absolutely different, completely different. The rules to qualify for each one of these are different, and what you get is different. So make sure you keep these separate, right? Build a wall in your brain between postponed and deferred. They're two different things. Postponed is always a sub-bullet of MRA plus 10. Deferred is its own thing, okay? So what is a deferred? To get a deferred retirement, the only time I see people really doing deferred is when they haven't hit their MRA yet and they have at least 5 years of service, okay? So for example, let's say you are 50 years old and you have 25 years of service, right? And let's assume you're a traditional FERS for now. Traditional, non-special provision. If you're 50 and have 25 years of service, what type of retirement could you qualify for? Well, not a normal one. If you were offered a VERA, you could take that one, but because you have 25 years, you're 50, you'd qualify for that. However, what if you're not offered that, right? Which most people aren't, most of the time. Well, you're not eligible for MRA plus 10. Postponed is a subcomponent of that, so you're not eligible for that. The only thing you'd be eligible for is a deferred. The only type of retirement you'd be then eligible for is a deferred. Again, the only requirements to have a deferred retirement is have at least 5 years of civilian service. Okay? Have 5 years of civilian service. And here's how deferred works. Basically, you leave the government, you resign, and later you turn a pension on depending on how many years of service you have. So let's say you're, again, 50 years old, 25 years of service. You would leave the government at 50, and you've got 25 years, so you can start your pension at 60 with no reduction. So between 50 and 60, you're not working for the federal government, you're doing something else. At 60, your deferred pension would turn on, and you'd have a pension for the rest of your life at that point. Okay? Now, again, the biggest difference is between deferred and postponed is postponed is a subcomponent of MRA plus 10. You have to have hit your MRA already with at least 10 years of service to have a shot at postponed. Deferred is what you're eligible for if you haven't hit your MRA yet and you have at least 5 years of service. And you can take your pension, your deferred pension, at 62 if you have at least 5 years of service. You can take it at 60 if you have at least 20. And if you have at least 30 years of service at your minimum retirement age is when you can start your deferred pension without any reductions. Okay? Long story short, deferred retirement is the least valuable because while you can get a pension, you cannot get your health insurance. If you take this type of retirement and have this type of pension to deferred, then you will lose your health insurance when you retire and you'll never be able to get it back. With a postponed, like I said, you'll lose your health insurance during the gap here, but you can restart your health insurance once your pension starts, but a deferred you cannot. Okay? A deferred, you lose your health insurance right at retirement and it never comes back. So there's some key differences between these different types of retirement. And again, if you want to dial into more of the details, I've got whole videos on each one of these things. So go check those out depending on which one applies to you. So I hope that's helpful. And there's tons of helpful resources for federal employees just like you to retire confident in the description. So check those out. And you guys have a great rest of your day.